Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimiraandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityānanda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasavi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Shri Gaurnitai Bhagavan ki, Nityānanda Ram ki. So reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita on Adi Leela chapter 5, the glories of Lord Nityānanda Balaram on the occasion of Nityānanda Trayodasi 2020. This chapter is chiefly devoted to describing the essential nature and glories of Sri Nityānanda Prabhu. Lord Sri Krishna is the absolute personality of Godhead, and his first expansion in a form for pastimes is Sri Balaram. Beyond the limitation of this material world is the spiritual sky, Paravyoma, which has many spiritual planets, the supreme of which is called Krishna Loka. Krishna Loka, the abode of Krishna, has three divisions, which are known as Dwaraka, Mathura and Gokula. In that abode, the personality of Godhead expands himself into four plenary portions: Krishna, Balaram, Pradyumna, the transcendental Cupid, and Aniruddha. They are known as the original quadruple forms. In Krishna Loka is a transcendental place known as Shvetadvip or Vrindavan. Below Krishna Loka in the spiritual sky are the Vaikuntha planets. On each Vaikuntha planet, a four-headed Narayana expanded from the first quadruple manifestation is present. The personality of Godhead known as Sri Balaram in Krishna Loka is the original Sankarshan, attracting deity, and from this Sankarshan expands another Sankarshan called Mahasankarshan, who resides in one of the Vaikuntha planets. By his internal potency, Mahasankarshan maintains the transcendental existence of all the planets in the spiritual sky, where all the living beings are eternally liberated souls. The influence of the material energy is conspicuous there by its absence. On those planets, the second quadruple manifestation is present. Outside of the Vaikuntha planets is the impersonal manifestation of Sri Krishna, which is known as Brahmaloka. On the other side of Brahmaloka is the spiritual Karana Samudra, or causal ocean. The material energy exists on the other side of the causal ocean without touching it. In the causal ocean is Mahavishnu, the original Purusha expansion from Sankarsana. Mahavishnu places his glance over the material energy, and by reflection of his transcendental body, he amalgamates himself within the material elements. As the source of the material elements, the material energy is known as Pradhan, and as the source of the manifestations of the material energy, it is known as Maya. Yes, but material nature is inert in that she has no independent power to do anything. She is empowered to make the cosmic manifestation by the glance of Mahavishnu. Therefore, the material energy is not the original cause of the material manifestation. Rather, the transcendental glance of Mahavishnu over material nature produces that cosmic manifestation. Mahavishnu again enters every universe as the reservoir of all living entities, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. From Garbhodakashayi Vishnu expands Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, the supersoul of every living entity. We can do one favor. You can just close the door. Garbhodakashayi Vishnu also has his own Vaikuntha planet in every universe, where he lives as the super soul or supreme controller of the universe. Garbhodakashayi Vishnu reclines in the midst of the watery portion of the universe and generates the first living creature of the universe, Brahma. The imaginary universal form is a partial manifestation of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. Here it is said the imaginary universal form. The universal form, although shown to Arjuna, of course, that is another Purusha Sukta. It is described that the heavenly planets, the Brahmaloka is the head of the Lord, and the mountains are the bones of the Lord. So this kind of Vishwarupa, and the trees are the hairs on the Lord. So in this way, the conception of the Virat Rupa is mentioned. So that is here stated in as imaginary. It is for meditation for the impersonalists. On the Vaikuntha planet, in every universe is an ocean of milk, and within that ocean is an island called Tattvavit dāsa, where Lord Vishnu lives. Therefore, this chapter describes two Tattvavits, one in the abode of Krishna and the other in the ocean of milk in every universe. The Tattvavita in the abode of Krishna is identical with Vrindavan Dham, which is the place where Krishna appears himself to display his loving pastimes. In the Tattvavita within every universe is a Shesha form of Godhead who serves Vishnu by assuming the form of his umbrella, slippers, couch, pillows, garments, residence, sacred thread, throne, and so on. Lord Baladev in Krishna Loka is Nityānanda Prabhu. Therefore, Nityānanda Prabhu is the original Sankarshan, and Mahasankarshan and his expansions as the Purushas in the universes are plenary expansions of Nityānanda Prabhu. In this chapter, the author has described the history of his leaving home for a personal pilgrimage to Vrindavan, and he is achieving all success there. In this description, it is revealed that the author's original paternal home and birthplace were in the district of Katwa in the village of Jhamatpur, which is near Naihati. So anyway, this is another narration. We will read the Glories of Nityānanda Prabhu. So we will just read on the translations of these texts. Let me offer my obeisances to Lord Sri Nityānanda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose opulence is wonderful and unlimited. By his will, even a fool can understand his identity. All glories to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all glories to Lord Nityānanda, all glories to Advaita Acharya, and all glories to all devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I have described the glory of Sri Krishna Chaitanya in 6 verses. Now, in 5 verses, I shall describe the glory of Lord Nityānanda. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is the fountainhead of all incarnations. Lord Balaram is his second body. These two are one and the same identity. They differ only in form. Lord Balaram is the first bodily expansion of Krishna, and he assists in Lord Krishna's transcendental pastimes. That original Lord Krishna appeared in Navadvip as Lord Chaitanya, and Balaram appeared with him as Lord Nityānanda. May Sri Nityananda Ram be the object of my constant remembrance. Sankarshan, Seshanag, and the Vishnus who lie on the Karana ocean, Garbha ocean, and the ocean of milk are his plenary portions and portions of his plenary portions. Lord Balaram is the original Sankarshan. He assumes 5 other forms to serve Lord Krishna. So that's why we call him as Nityānanda Ram, because he's actually Balaram. And it is said that in the Hare Krishna mantra, the Ram also refers to Lord Balaram. Although there is no difference between Lord Ramchandra and Lord Balaram, but specifically it is addressing Lord Balaram. So therefore we address him as Nityānanda Ram. Lord Balram is the original Sankarshan. He assumes 5 other forms to serve Lord Krishna. He himself helps in the pastimes of Lord Krishna and he does the work of creation in 4 other forms. He executes the orders of Lord Krishna in the work of creation and in the form of Lord Sesha. He serves Krishna in various ways. In all the forms, he tastes the transcendental bliss of serving Krishna. That same Balaram is Lord Nityānanda, the companion of Lord Gaurasundar. I have explained the 7th verse in 4 subsequent verses. By these verses, all the world can know the truth about Lord Nityānanda. I surrender unto the lotus feet of Sri Nityānanda Ram, who is known as Sankarshan in the midst of the Chaturvyuha, consisting of Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Aniruddha. He possesses full opulences and resides in Vaikuntha-loka, far beyond the material creation. Beyond the material nature lies the realm known as Paravyoma, the spiritual sky. Like Lord Krishna himself, it possesses all transcendental attributes such as the 6 opulences. That Vaikuntha region is all-pervading, infinite and supreme. It is the residence of Lord Krishna and his incarnations. In the highest region of that spiritual sky is the spiritual planet called Krishna Loka. It has 3 divisions, Dwarka, Mathura and Gokul. Sri Gokul, the highest of all, is also called Raja, Goloka, Shvetadvip and Vrindavan. Like the transcendental body of Lord Krishna, Gokula is all-pervading, infinite and supreme. It expands both above and below without any restriction. That abode is manifested within the material world by the will of Lord Krishna. It is identical to that original Gokula. They are not 2 different bodies. The land there is touchstone, Chintamani, and the forests abound with desire trees, Kalpavriksha. Material eyes see it as an ordinary place. So this is the reason why we can't appreciate the transcendental nature of Vrindavan, even if we go there and stay there, unless we become purified in our consciousness. Only with there is a nice description, we will read that in the purport of Brahma Samhita, chapter 5, verse 37, I think. I think this verse, in the purport, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains. Although the Lord Absolute and His potency are one and the self-same existence, still they exist eternally as separate entities, as Radha and Krishna. In both the ecstatic energy and transcendental Lord Krishna, there exists Sringara Rasa, amorous love, whose quality is inconceivable. The Vibhava, extension of that rasa, mellow quality, is twofold, viz. Alambana and Uddipana, prop and stimulation. Of these, Alambana is twofold, viz. Ashraya, supported, and Vishaya, supporter. These are very technical. Ashraya signifies Radhika herself and the extensions of her own form, and Vishaya means Krishna himself. Krishna is Govinda, Lord of Goloka. The gopis are the facsimile ashraya of that rasa. For some of these things you need a dictionary. With them, Krishna indulges in eternal pastimes in Goloka. Nijarupataya means with the attributes manifested from the ecstatic energy. Okay, these are a lot of detail. Actually, I want to go to them. 64 arts are mentioned here, but there is Here it is said, there are some who, being unable to understand the drift of his statements, give meanings of their own invention and indulge in useless controversies. Sri Rupa and Sanatan say that there is no real and essential distinction between the Leelas visible and non-visible. The only distinction lies in this, that one is manifest in the mundane sphere whereas the other is not so. In the supramundane manifestation, there is absolute purity in the seer and the seen. A particularly fortunate person, when he is favored by Krishna, can shake off worldly shackles and connections, enter the transcendental region after attaining the realized taste of the varieties of rasa that is available during the period of novitiate. Only such a person can have a view and taste of the perfect and absolutely pure Leela of Goloka. Such receptive natures are rarely to be found. So, only a pure person who is devoid of material connections, material affection, Prajahati yada kaman, sarvan partha manogatan, in the second chapter, 55th verse, Krishna is saying, the symptom of a transcendentalist. So, a person who is of that platform, he can absolutely, see the absolutely pure Leela of Goloka. Such receptive natures are rarely to be found in this material world, especially. It is very rare to find such pure souls. He who exists in the mundane sphere can also realize the taste of Chidarasa by the grace of Krishna, by being enabled to attain the realized state of service. So now we are doing service by force, by the vidhis, by the vidhi or injunctions or orders of the spiritual master. When we become mature in such service, then that is called realized state of service. Spontaneously we will serve Krishna. That state is where we can actually see real Vrindavan. Kabe hama bujhabo Sri Jugala Birki and Sri Vrindavan. So the acharyas, they are singing like this: when can I see Vrindavan? Why are they saying? Because although Vrindavan you can go, there is a railway station there and everything, but the real Vrindavan we cannot really appreciate unless we are realized souls. There is certainly a difference between these two classes of eligible seekers of the truth. Until one attains the perfectly transcendental stage, he must be hampered by his lingering limitations in his vision of the pastimes of Goloka. Until one attains the perfectly transcendental stage, he must be hampered by his lingering limitations in his vision of the pastimes of Goloka. So when it is said that in this Gokula on this earth is same as Goloka in the spiritual world, it is not an exaggeration. None of those statements are exaggerations. But when we don't find it to be the same, when the trees in Gokula are kalpavrikshas, and the stone is chintamani, touchstone and desire trees, you can get whatever you want from those trees. But you go to Vrindavan, you don't find such trees. Why? So, again, the same thing, that difference between the descriptions of the Shastra and our realization. So the problem is always with our realization. So it is said here that one can see the real Vrindavan only, and all the Chintamani, the Kalpavriksha and everything, Surabhi cows, all that if one is pure enough. Otherwise, we will go there in Vrindavan and commit offenses. Oh, I have read in the Krishna book and all this so beautiful description, and now come here, there are pigs and monkeys and some drain water, and this way we get bewildered if we are materially conscious. Again, the vision of the transcendental reality varies according to the degree of self-realization. The vision of Goloka must also vary accordingly. See that? It is only those fettered souls who are excessively addicted to worldliness that are devoid of the devotional eye. Of them, some are enmeshed by the variegatedness of the deluding energy, while others aspire after self-annihilation under the influence of centrifugal knowledge. So some are attracted to worldly happiness, karmis, and the jnanis, they want self-annihilation. They want to become one with the Lord. So though they might have a view of the mundanely manifested pastimes of the Supreme Lord, they can have only a material conception of those visible pastimes, this conception being devoid of transcendental reality. Hence, the realization of Goloka appears in proportion to eligibility due to the degree of one's self-realization. The underlying principle is this, that though Gokula is as holy and free from dross as Goloka, still it is manifested on the mundane plane by the influence of the Chit potency, Yoga Maya. In visible and non-visible matters of transcendental regions, there is no impurity, contamination and imperfection inherent in the world of limitation. Only there is some difference in the matter of realization in proportion to the self-realization of the seekers after the Absolute. Impurity, unwholesomeness, foreign elements, illusion, nescience, unholiness, utter inadequacy, insignificance, grossness, these appertain to the eye, intellect, mind, and ego, stultified by the material nature of conditioned souls. They have nothing to do with the essential nature of transcendence. The more one is free from these blots, the more is one capable of realizing the unqualified Absolute. The truth, who has been revealed by the scriptures, is free from dross. But the realizations of the seekers of the knowledge of these realities are with or without flaw in accordance with the degree of their individual realization. So you see, there is a point. There's a lot of explanation. And actually one has to keep a dictionary beside him to understand what Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is talking about. And only if we read Prabhupada's books first do we have any slight understanding of what he's talking about here. Towards the end also there is some important point in the purport. Whenever any dispute arises regarding the pure cognitive pastimes such as Goloka, etc., we would do well to remember the precious advice from the holy lips of Sriman Mahaprabhu and his associates, the Goswamis, viz. That the truth absolute is ever characterized by spiritual variegatedness that transcends the variegatedness of mundane phenomena, but he is never featureless. The divine rasa is lovely with the variegatedness of the fourfold distinctions of Vibhava, Anubhava, Sattvika and Vyabhichari, and the rasa is ever present in Goloka and Vaikuntha. The rasa of Goloka manifests as Vrajarasa on the mundane plane for the benefit of the devotees by the power of Yoga Maya. So Vrindavan is under the Yoga Maya, not Mahamaya. Whatever is observable in Gokula rasa should be visible in Goloka rasa in a clearly explicit form. Hence, the distinction of paramourship and concubinage, the variegatedness of the respective rasas of all different persons, the soil, water, river, hill, portico, bower, cows, etc., all the features of Gokula exist in Goloka, disposed in an appropriate manner. There is only this peculiarity that the mundane conceptions of human beings possessed of material judgment regarding those transcendental entities do not exist there. The conception of Goloka manifests itself differently in proportion to the degree of realization of the various pastimes of Vraja, and it is very difficult to lay down any definite criterion as to which portions are mundane and which are uncontaminated. The more the eye of devotion is tinged with the salve of love, the more will the transcendental concept gradually manifest itself. So there is no need of further hypothetical speculation which does not improve one's spiritual appreciation, as the substantive knowledge of Goloka is an inconceivable entity. To try to pursue the inconceivable by the conceptual process is like pounding the empty husk of grain, which is sure to have a fruitless ending. It is therefore one's bounden duty, by refraining from the endeavor to know, to try to gain the experience of the transcendental by the practice of pure devotion. In other words, by analyzing and analysis, we cannot understand these things. How this Gokula on this mundane world in Vrindavan in Uttar Pradesh, India, is the same as the infinite Goloka Vrindavan in the spiritual world. The only way one can realize it is by the strength of one's devotion. Any course, the adoption of which tends to produce the impression of featurelessness, must be shunned by all means. Unalloyed Parakiya Rasa, free from all mundane conception, is the most rare attainment. It is this which has been described in the narrative of the pastimes of Gokula. Those devotees who follow the dictate of their pure spontaneous love should base their devotional endeavors on that narrative. They will attain to the more wholesome fundamental principle on reaching the stage of realization. The devotional activities characterized by illicit amour, as practiced by worldly-minded conditioned souls, are forbidden mundane impiety. So what he is talking about here is the pastimes of Krishna and the gopis. They look like illicit affairs because the gopis had husbands and then they had a paramour relationship to Krishna. So some people, this is not an illicit affair. They are actually expansions of Radharani, the internal potency. So some people, so-called devotees, they imitate this behavior of Krishna on the mundane level. So they have illicit amour, illicit sex. They behave like Krishna and then they have so many gopis around them. So this is a very perverted reflection. One second. The audio is messed up all this while. Hare Krishna. So this illicit amour or illicit sexual affairs, as practiced by the worldly-minded conditioned souls, are forbidden mundane impiety. They are not the same as the Madhurya Ras. Please don't sit with the back to the deities. The heart of our apostle, Sripad Jiva Goswami, was very much moved by such practices and induced him to give us his conclusive statements on the subject. So Sri Jiva Goswami spoke very strongly against this illicit affairs in the name of Madhurya Ras. It is the duty of a pure Vaishnava to accept the real spirit of his statements. It is a great offense to disrespect the Acharya and to seek to establish a different doctrine in opposition to him. So anyway, the point I was trying to make is that based on the degree of realization, one can realize this description here. The land there is touchstone Chintamani and the forests abound with desire trees. Material eyes see it as an ordinary place. But with the eyes of love of Godhead, one can see its real identity as the place where Lord Krishna performs his pastimes with the cowherd boys and cowherd girls. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor, who is tending cows, yielding all desires in abodes built with spiritual gems and surrounded by millions of purpose trees. He is always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. This is from the Brahma Samhita. Chintamani, Prakarasadma Sukalpa Vriksha. Lord Krishna manifests his own form in Mathura and Dwaraka. He enjoys pastimes in various ways by expanding into the quadruple forms. Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Aniruddha are the primary quadruple forms from whom all other quadruple forms are manifested. They are all purely transcendental. Only in these three places, Dwaraka, Mathura and Gokula, does the all-sporting Lord Krishna perform his endless pastimes with his personal associates. In the Vaikuntha planets of the spiritual sky, the Lord manifests his identity as Narayan and performs pastimes in various ways. Krishna's own form has only 2 hands, but in the form of Lord Narayana, he has 4 hands. Lord Narayana holds a conch shell, disc, club and lotus flower and is full of great opulence. The Shri, Bhu and Nila energies serve at his lotus feet. So here, the Vaikuntha region is described, where the unlimited Vaikuntha planets are there. So we will quickly go to that part. Okay. Beyond the region of ignorance, the material cosmic manifestation, lies the realm of Siddhaloka. The Siddhas reside there absorbed in the bliss of Brahman. Demons killed by the Lord also attain that realm. So this Siddhaloka is not exactly the Siddhaloka in this material world, where one has all the Ashtasiddhis from birth, but this Siddhaloka is a Brahman effulgence. They are also called Siddhas, but they are not complete Siddhas, partial Siddhas. The demons also attain the Brahma Jyoti. In that spiritual sky, on the four sides of Narayan are the second expansions of the quadruple expansions of Dvaraka. Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Aniruddha constitute the second quadruple. They are purely transcendental. There, in the spiritual sky, the personal feature of Balaram called Mahasankarshan is the shelter of the spiritual energy. He is the primary cause, the cause of all causes. One variety of the pastimes of the spiritual energy is described as pure goodness, Suddha, Vishuddha Sattva. It comprises all the abodes of Vaikuntha. The six attributes are all spiritual. Know for certain that they are all manifestations of the opulence of Sankarshan. There is one marginal potency known as Jiva. Mahasankarshan is the shelter of all Jivas. Sankarshan is the shelter of everything. He is wonderful in every aspect and his opulences are infinite. Even Ananta cannot describe his glory. Ananta means Anantasesh. Anantasesh has unlimited heads, but he cannot. With all those mouths, he is trying to narrate the pastimes of Sankarshan or Lord Sankarshan, but he cannot finish for eternity. I offer my full obeisances unto the feet of Sri Nityānanda Ram, whose partial representation called Karanodakasaya Vishnu, lying on the Karana ocean, is the original Purusha, the master of illusory energy and the shelter of all the universes. From whose pores the universes are coming out, the Mahavishnu is only a partial plenary portion of Nityānanda Prabhu. Outside the Vaikuntha planets is the impersonal Brahman effulgence, and beyond that effulgence is the Karana ocean or causal ocean. Just imagine, how big is Mahavishnu, but he is coming as Nityānanda Prabhu, and Jagai Madhai beat him, and he was bleeding and behaved like an ordinary person. But how great he is, and only distributing the mercy to the fallen souls, he has come amongst the human beings, amongst the sinful human beings, and in fact showed even greater mercy than Lord Chaitanya himself, who is already called the Mahavadanyaya avatar. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to kill Jagai and Madhai, but Nityananda Prabhu was even more merciful than Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he stopped that and then delivered Jagai and Madhai. And Srila Prabhupada, he mentions that a real servant of Nityananda Prabhu, being empowered by Nityananda Prabhu, can deliver millions of Jagais and Madhais. Nityananda Prabhu has delivered one Jagai and one Madhai. But by the mercy of Nityananda, a real devotee can deliver millions of Jagais and Madhais. And Srila Prabhupada has personally shown in his example where he has saved people from very, very low backgrounds. Their culture, their whole traditions, their behavior, everything was so downtrodden. They were almost on the level of animals, even worse than animals. But he delivered all of them. Actually everybody, even the so-called cultured people also. What culture is that? Like myself, I came from Brahmin family, so-called. But honestly, the culture is no more there. Just like some last few traces of the culture. And that too without any core understanding. So, Nityananda Prabhu is the savior of all fallen souls, and he doesn't distinguish whether he is a Shudra, Vaishya, Chandala. Just distribute the mercy. This whole chapter one can read, it's a very long chapter in fact, but you can get the idea of how great Nityananda Prabhu is, Although if you see the pastimes of Nityananda Prabhu, he is just, with two hands and, although almost behaving like an ordinary person, but he is very, very exalted. He is the Lord himself, Balram. So to give the full context of Nityananda Prabhu, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has, explained in full detail the position of Nityananda Prabhu. So actually the way Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami wrote the Chaitanya Charitamrita is that first he established the real position of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Prabhu, Gadadhar, Srivas. Then he narrated their pastimes. Because without understanding that, if we just read the pastimes alone, they may appear just like ordinary devotees. They came as Bhaktavatar, different rupa, different manifestations of bhaktas, different degrees of bhaktas and internal potency, but they were all Nitya Siddha and also the Supreme Lord. Especially in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu and Advaita Prabhu, they are Vishnu Tattva, then Radharani, Gadadhar is the pleasure potency, Shakti Tattva, and Srivas is representation of the Jiva Tattva, Narad Muni. So in this way, they have come, they are not ordinary at all. And Nityananda Prabhu, we can see so many pastimes of Nityananda Prabhu. One of the pastimes, there is so many actually. Even Raghunath Das Goswami was, after the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda touched him, then he could eventually give up his material. He was trying on his own, but until he met Nityananda Prabhu, he could not give up his material affection, material attachments. His father would always bring him back, because father was so rich and he had a beautiful wife as well. But he was not at all interested. But only by the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu could he join Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. After that, he never came back, went back to home. So Nityananda Prabhu's mercy is very essential. There is in fact, I think Krishnadas Kaviraja's brother, who did not have faith in Nityananda Prabhu, but he had very strong faith in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but he did not have any faith in Nityananda Prabhu. Eventually he fell down. So we cannot accept Chaitanya Mahaprabhu alone without Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda, that's why we always Gaur Nitai. Although we also find some temples of Gaudiya Math where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is alone, but Srila Prabhupada always put Gaur Nitai together. Parama Karuna Pahu Dui Jana Nitai Gaura Chandra, Lochandas Thakur has sung. The lotus feet of Nityananda and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they are the two most merciful lords. And among all, Sabhavatar Sar Shiromani, Kevala Ananda Kanda. They are the essence of all incarnations, and the process by which they have propagated is very easy and very enjoyable to perform. Just kirtan, prasadam and nice philosophy. There is no big tapasyas involved like Dhruv Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj. For Kali Yuga, everybody already undergoing so much tapasya, under the influence of Kali Yuga. So to save the fallen souls, here they have come like this. Actually, one can read, so that one can, this whole chapter, it's about almost 300 verses long. Chapter 5 of the Adilila of Chaitanya Charitamrita. But if we go on reading, we will not stop. There is also one more pastime of Shivananda Sena. We have also narrated this pastime many times, that every year the inhabitants of Navadvip, they used to go for Rath Yatra to Jagannath Puri, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to stay there. His headquarters when he was sannyasi was at Jagannath Puri, And inhabitants of Navadvip always used to miss Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but once a year they used to go and meet him during the Rath Yatra period. So Shivananda Sena was the person who was in charge of arranging the whole transport and accommodation and the whole everything for the devotees, this travelling party from Bengal. So Nityananda Prabhu was also in the travelling party, and Shivananda Sena had a wife and three sons, and they all used to go every year. So one year, when going to cross the border between Bengal and Utkala, Utkal is the present Odisha state of India. So in that border there was a toll gate and there was some delay in payment, delay in the process, due to which Shivananda Sena could not immediately pay, and he did not anticipate that also. So as it was becoming late and it was going to become dark, so he asked all the inhabitants, the Bengal devotees, to go cross the border first, whereas he will be at the gate, and I think there was a long queue or something like this, so he will settle all that and he will come soon. So instead of them waiting at the gate, he wanted them to go first. So they went, but he could not go there until the next morning. So the whole night they were there without proper accommodation. So the next morning Shivananda Sena finished his job at the toll gate, and then he proceeded further quickly, worrying how the Vaishnavas were stayed up the whole night. So when he went there, his wife told him, Nityananda Prabhu has cursed that our three sons will die because you haven't provided him accommodation. He became very angry and he cursed our three small sons to die. Of course they did not die yet, he just uttered the words that they will die. So and then Shivananda Sena was already very troubled because he did not serve Lord Nityananda Prabhu properly and all the Vaishnavas. So when he heard that his wife was crying and informed him this way, then he scolded his wife. Why are you crying? Don't you think we deserve this punishment? We deserve more than this. We also should die. Both of us also should die along with our three sons for not having served Nityananda Prabhu properly. So then he quickly ran towards Nityananda Prabhu to beg for forgiveness. And when he went there, Nityananda Prabhu saw him, and out of his anger he kicked him on his chest. And Shivananda Sena fell to the ground. Then he became very happy. Then he got up and started to dance. He danced in ecstasy. Oh, today my life has become successful. All, my whatever devotion I have done, whatever little bit with offense or without offense, everything has become successful today. Because the feet of Nityananda Prabhu has touched his useless body. How is it that after even I have offended him by not providing him proper residence, he has benedicted me with the touch of his lotus feet? Who can get the touch of Nityananda Prabhu's feet? Even the great yogis, great devotees, they can't get, but an offender like me has also gotten. See how merciful is Nityananda Prabhu, that he doesn't see whether one is an offender or not. So in this way he started to dance in ecstasy, and Nityananda Prabhu understood his heart and he embraced him, and he was very happy with the mood of Shivananda Sena. So this is to show, although you see on one side he was so merciful to save Jagai and Madhai, on the other side he appeared very angry and very merciless. But in that also is the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, and only the devotees can understand it. And to glorify the position of Shivananda Sena and how a devotee sees the mercy of the Lord even in the most adverse of circumstances, Nityānanda Prabhu has performed this pastime to glorify his devotee. And in turn, the mercy of Nityānanda Prabhu is also glorified. So in this way, the pastimes of the Lord are very inconceivable to understand with our mundane reasoning. But by the examples of pure devotees like Shivananda Sena and others, we can get a glimpse of the mercy of Nityānanda Prabhu and other associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. So, any questions or comments on this topic? What is that? Sannyas Danda. Dandabhanga. Yeah. So there is the Dandabhanga pastimes also. There's so many pastimes are there. Actually, one can read. There is also Nityānanda Charitamrita. I think there is one book like Nityananda's pastimes. So anyway, one can read even Chaitanya Charitamrita. There is enough descriptions of Nityananda Prabhu as well, spread across the the whole book. So, any questions or comments? Nothing. So we'll stop here. Jai Nityananda Ram ki, Nityananda Trayodasi Maha Mahotsav ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande.